Chapter 1201. Han Hongyi glanced at Han Xiling. If I didn't come, would this house be torn down by you? Hearing the dissatisfaction and reprimand in Han Hongyi's words, Han Xiling muttered, Grandpa, you didn't help me at all today, you let Bailey Hongzhuang bully me. Today, the sovereign suddenly came back, and it seems that he has already seen Bailey Hongzhuang. Grandpa can't speak rashly. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance today was not bad. If you were magnanimous, it would be fine. But you had to ask, and you lost your face. Han Hongyi's weathered face showed a touch of helplessness. Xiling, you really lost your sense of propriety now. Over the years, Han Xiling had always been so cold. No matter what had happened, she had never been so flustered. However, where was Han Xiling's original arrogant appearance? She was like a resentful woman who was paranoid. Now, she had actually started to smash things. Grandpa, you know that I have always liked Big Brother D. Now Bailey Hongzhuang came later and took Big Brother D away. Now she can be said to be showing off in the territory of Tian Gang sect. What's more, now the sovereign likes her very much. If she really marries Big Brother D in the future, then how can I stay in Tian Gang sect? Han Xiling stared at Han Hongyi, and her pretty face was full of anxiety. She never thought that there would be such a day. Originally, as long as the sovereign did not come, Big Brother D could not marry Bailey Hongzhuang. However, who would have thought that the sovereign would suddenly come back? All this seemed to have been agreed. All the luck was on the side of Bailey Hongzhuang. How could she bear it? Han Hongyi sighed faintly. How could he not know Xiling's thoughts, but the relationship between men and women had never been decided by one person. Xiling, young sovereign's previous attitude has been very obvious. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang is here, you can't capture his heart. Han Hongyi said slowly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. As soon as Han Xiling heard Han Hongyi's words, he seemed to understand something. His eyes lit up. Grandpa, you mean? Not waiting for Han Xiling's words to finish, Han Hongyi had already interrupted her. In my opinion, why don't you participate in the competition as well? Han Xiling was slightly startled, and a hint of surprise appeared on her pretty face. I'll participate as well. Han Hongyi nodded slightly. Since you have this opportunity, it's not bad for you to participate. When you come back, your reputation will be even more stable. However, Han Xiling was somewhat dissatisfied. Grandpa, it wasn't easy to separate Bailey Hongzhuang and Brother D. This is a good opportunity for me and Brother D to improve our relationship. If I also participate in the assessment competition, then wouldn't I also be unable to see Big Brother D? Han Xiling was puzzled. Why did she need to participate in the assessment competition for this kind of thing? What's more, the risk in the assessment competition was not a joke. If she was not careful, she might lose her life. She did not want to inexplicably bear those risks. Looking at Han Xiling's childish appearance, Han Hongyi was somewhat disappointed. Since you want to achieve great things, you need to look at the overall situation. Chapter 1202. Seeing Han Hongyi's serious face, Han Xiling didn't dare to be willful anymore. Grandpa, then why should I participate in the assessment competition? As long as you get good results in the assessment competition, then you will have the support of the public. Han Hongyi's eyes were deep and distant. The small world is a closed world. Once you enter it, then the outside world won't know what is happening inside. If you go, then you will have a chance. Once you make a move, you must eliminate all future troubles. Do you understand? Han Xiling was startled. Grandpa, you mean you want me to solve it myself? Han Hongyi glanced at Han Xiling. Didn't you find external forces before but didn't succeed? As Han Hongyi's voice fell, Han Xiling couldn't help but be stunned. She thought that the matter of her finding the assassins of Shirtian Tower to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang was done very secretly and no one would know. She didn't expect her grandpa to know. Since it's something that can't be discovered, then it must be done secretly. You can't let anyone have the chance to find out. Your current methods are still too immature. I have already arranged for the cultivators participating in the assessment competition. Except for the few cultivators from Kanglin College, the other cultivators will listen to you. When the time comes, you have to act according to the circumstances and solve the problem once and for all. Do you understand? Han Xiling listened to Han Hengyi's words, and her eyes became brighter and brighter. She didn't expect her grandpa to support her so much that he had even prepared these things for her. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang died, then she would have a chance. Even if Di Gu wouldn't forget Bailey Hongzhuang in a short time, as long as she was by Di Ji's side, then she would have hope. Grandpa, don't worry. This time I will not solve it cleanly. Han Xiling's clear eyes flashed with a ruthless light. As long as she could get what she wanted, all obstacles should be solved directly. Han Hengyi nodded slightly. You have to seize the opportunity. The future wife of Tiangang sect can only be you. Hearing this, Han Xiling's face showed a proud smile. Grandpa, it will definitely be me. Now that even her grandfather was supporting her, what was there to be afraid of? Although Bailey Hongzhuang was talented, she was still no match for her. As long as she could get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible after entering the competition, then all these troubles would no longer exist. Since that's the case, don't be angry. Show everyone your magnanimous side in the next few days so that the sect master will have a better impression of you. Han Xiling nodded repeatedly. His original anger had quietly dissipated into nothingness. Grandpa, don't worry. I understand. At this moment, Han Xiling felt that all her anger was nothing. When she thought about how Bailey Hongzhuang would disappear from her sight forever, she felt that the air was unprecedentedly fresh. Seeing Han Xiling's happy appearance, Han Hengyi's eyes also showed a smile. He would never let anyone take away what his granddaughter liked. Moreover, only his granddaughter had the qualifications to be this Tiangang sect's young sect master's wife. However, Grandpa, I didn't take part in the assessment today. Can I still take part in the assessment now? A sense of worry appeared in Han Xiling's eyes. If she didn't have the opportunity to take part in the assessment, then everything would be ruined. Chapter 1203. After Han Hengyi left, Han Xiling sat on the chair in a good mood. Before, her grandfather had not expressed his opinion, so she thought that her grandfather did not support her. She did not expect that not only did her grandfather support her, but he had already started to act. Miss, you can rest assured now. Tao Tsongrong's face burst into an excited smile. Bailey Hongzhuang made her Miss gnash her teeth and want to deal with her. Now there was finally an opportunity. Han Xiling's eyes revealed a sarcastic smile. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang is proud now, so what? It won't be long before she dies in my hands. When she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogant appearance in front of her these days, she hated that she could not immediately kill Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her. Tao Tsongrong nodded again, and then a touch of worry appeared on her face. Miss, this Bailey Hongzhuang is not participating in the exam alone. There are 4 other cultivators from the Azure Water School who are participating with her. I think their relationship is very good. If you want to make a move, won't these 4 people be a big obstacle? After all, 5 people were not a small target. Hearing this, Han Xiling sneered, they are just a group of mobs. If they want to help Bailey Hongzhuang, I will send them to hell together. In addition to Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5, there were 7 other cultivators. Including her, there were 8 people. Even if it was a group fight, it would not be difficult for the 8 of them to kill Bailey Hongzhuang's group. What's more, although the 4 cultivators seemed to have a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, they might have already abandoned Bailey Hongzhuang at a dangerous moment. The human nature of this world has always been so cold. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Looking at Han Xiling's confident appearance, Tao Tsongrong also smiled happily. Miss is right. With Miss's ability, it is absolutely easy to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. After Tiangang sect's cultivators knew that Han Shiling was also participating in the exam, everyone was very surprised. As everyone knows, cultivators participate in the exam in order to have the opportunity to enter a sect. Han Shiling was already a cultivator of Tiangang sect, so there was no need for her to participate in the exam. What's more, participating in the exam had a certain risk, so this was not a wise move. Even with Han Shiling's strength, there was a possibility of her falling in the exam. She already had the conditions that everyone envied, but now she wanted to take this narrow path. It's really strange. She wanted to take this narrow path. In my opinion, Han Shiling was stimulated by Bailey Heng Zhuang, so she wants to participate in the assessment. That's true. Han Shiling has liked young sect leader for so long. Now that young sect leader suddenly brought Bailey Heng Zhuang back, Han Shiling is not convinced at all. I wonder who will have better results between Han Shiling and Bailey Heng Zhuang. Han Shiling wants to slap Bailey Heng Zhuang's face. After a short moment of thinking, many cultivators already understood the reason why Han Shiling did this. Han Shiling's cultivation was originally stronger than Bailey Heng Zhuang. Once the two of them participated in the exam, Han Shiling's results would most likely be better than Bailey Heng Zhuang's. In this way, wouldn't it be a slap to Bailey Heng Zhuang's face? After understanding this point, everyone couldn't help but sigh. The battle between the two women was also not simple. Chapter 1204. Bailey Heng Zhuang and the others followed Bewitching to purchase all the things they needed in the trading market, and then slowly walked towards the palace. Tiangang Zone was really worthy of being a big sect. This trading market could be said to have everything they needed. The things they needed could be bought here, which inevitably made them exclaim. Originally, they felt that there was a big gap between the sects and the secular world, and it would be inconvenient to buy some things. Now it seemed that all of this was not a problem at all. Cultivating in the sect was the best place for a cultivator to improve their cultivation. Xia Jiqing walked in Bailey Heng Zhuang's expression, and her pretty face showed a bit of dissatisfaction. Heng Zhuang, that Han Shiling suddenly wants to participate in the assessment competition. I think he definitely has no good intentions. Xia Jiqing did not restrain her voice. From the first time she met Han Shiling, she felt that Han Shiling was not a good person. When they were in the ruins, Han Shiling also squeezed Heng Zhuang everywhere. Now, after coming to Tiangang Zone, needless to say, it was even more so. Since he wants to go, then let him go. Bailey Heng Zhuang's expression was indifferent, but in the depths of her eyes, there was a cold light. She originally intended to let Han Shiling be free in Tiangang Zone for 2 more years. She did not expect Han Shiling to be so impatient and want to die early. Then she could only fulfill Han Shiling's wish. The grievances between them had to be solved sooner or later. Perhaps it would be more convenient to go to the small world to solve it. Looking at Bailey Heng Zhuang's indifferent appearance, Xia Jiqing was a little worried. What if Han Shiling makes a move on you in the small world? Although she was very disdainful of Han Shiling grew up in Tiangang Zone since he was a child. His strength was much stronger than ordinary cultivators. Heng Zhuang's cultivation talent was very strong, but now it was not comparable to Han Shiling. Once Han Shiling made a move, the situation would become very dangerous. When Gong Shaoqing and the others heard this, they could not help but frown. In fact, they had also thought of this problem. They weren't familiar with Han Shiling, so they didn't know if Han Shiling was a cruel and merciless person. However, the possibility of that happening was very high. If she attacks, we will fight back. Different situations call for different measures. Compared with the nervousness of Xia Jiqing and the others, Bailey Heng Zhuang seemed very indifferent. Han Shiling was indeed stronger than her, and she was also certain that the reason why Han Shiling suddenly proposed to participate in the assessment competition was to make a move on her during the assessment competition. As long as it was a cover-up, no one would know that she was the one who did it. Even if others guessed it, as long as there was no evidence, no one could do anything to her. However, this point was also applicable to her. She had also thought about making a move on Han Xiling. From the time Han Xiling found an assassin to deal with her, she had already wanted to take Han Xiling's life. It was just that Han Xiling was quite far away from her, so she had no chance to make a move at that time. Now that she was in Tiangang Zone, there were many people and it was also inconvenient for her to make a move. However, once he went to the small world, he would be able to fly freely in the vast sea. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing was also helpless. In such a situation, there was no one other than Hong Zhuang who could be so calm. Thinking of this, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. Di Beichen, what do you think of this matter? Chapter 1205. Everyone looked at Di Beichen's expression and knew that Di Beichen was very unhappy because of this matter. If Hong Zhuang was in danger, the person who was most worried was Di Beichen. Xia Jiqing shrugged her shoulders. She had always been a straightforward person, plus she really didn't like Han Xiling, so she said that. Di Beichen's palace. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came to the cultivation room. Since Bailey Hongzhuang knew about the cultivation room, she had been staying in the cultivation room these days. Even if there was not much time left, it was excellent to be able to improve her cultivation. Wifey, I will stop Han Xiling from participating in the assessment. The deep and charming eyes flashed with worry and dissatisfaction. Di Beichen also expected Han Xiling to participate in the assessment. Before this, Han Xiling had already found an assassin to assassinate Bailey Hongzhuang, but it was not successful. This time, Han Xiling must want to act by herself. He would not let Han Xiling have any chance to harm Hongzhuang. Looking at the anger in Di Beichen's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. Since Han Xiling wants to go, then let her go. Wifey. Di Beichen frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If Han Xiling can't come back after participating in the assessment, will you be sad? With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, Di Beichen immediately understood the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Di Beichen quickly made a decision. I only want wifey to come back safely. As for other people, I don't care. Listening to Di Beichen's answer, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. I am relieved to know your answer. However, I promise you, as long as Han Xiling doesn't have any evil intentions towards me, I won't kill her. How about it? Although, this possibility was very small. Her delicate and beautiful face was filled with a reasonable smile. In any case, Han Xiling had helped Di Beichen before. Even if Han Xiling's actions had erased the original kindness, after all, it had existed. She was also grateful for Han Xiling's help to Di Beichen before. However, if Han Xiling still didn't know what was good for her, then she could only make Han Xiling disappear in front of them forever. Wifey, what I am worried about is your safety. Di Beichen knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was always thinking about him. Because of his friendship with Han Xiling, he had indeed hesitated before. But now, what he was really worried about was Hongzhuang. Don't worry, I will be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face was filled with a faint light of confidence. Her expression was indifferent. Even if Han Xiling's cultivation is a bit stronger than mine, she can't compare to me in other aspects. Don't worry, I have always cherished my life, and I won't do anything that I am not sure of. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's confident appearance, Di Beichen couldn't help but ask, are you serious? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Of course it's true. Even if I don't think for myself, I will think for Jiqing and the others. Don't worry. Hearing this, Di Beichen was relieved. He understood that Hongzhuang had always cared about her sisterly relationship with Xia Jiqing. She would never let Xia Jiqing be in danger. As a result, this meant that Hongzhuang really had full confidence. Actually, I think it's good that Han Xiling and I participate in the assessment competition together. This way, she won't appear in front of you every day. Chapter 1206. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's playful teasing words, Bewitching chuckled. My wife, are you jealous? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders and raised an eyebrow at Bewitching. Han Xiling has no way of making me jealous. The smile on Bewitching's lips widened, his dark eyes filled with tenderness. Of the many thousand weak waters, I'll only take one ladle. To him, having Hongzhuang in this life was enough. There were only 7 days left before the assessment competition. Everyone knew about the feelings between Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, so in these few days, no one disturbed Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, allowing the two to enjoy their time alone. Han Xiling no longer made a fuss after hearing Han Hongyi's words, and quietly cultivated in the room, causing some of the disciples to change their opinion of him. This kind of temperament was the Han Xiling they knew on ordinary days. The night before they left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching stood in front of the window, the bright moonlight shining through the window sill into the room. The two of them were silent. Even though they already knew that they were going to separate, the feeling of reluctance was especially strong the night before. My wife, you must be careful when you go to the pocket world. No matter what, you must come back safely. Bewitching's deep and handsome eyes flickered with worry. When he thought of Bailey Hongzhuang leaving him for 2 years, he felt empty in his heart, as if he was missing the most important thing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly, her dark phoenix eyes filled with reluctance. I will definitely come back safely. This was her promise. She would definitely come back safely. Seeing the seriousness and determination in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Bewitching took a step forward and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms. Smelling the familiar and refreshing fragrance, the reluctance in his heart grew stronger. In the end, he couldn't bear for her to leave. However, this was a path that they had to take. As long as Hongzhuang returned safely, they wouldn't have to suffer the pain of separation in the future. My wife, I won't be by your side for these 2 years. You can't be abducted by other men. Bewitching said slowly. He was very familiar with Hongzhuang's charm. Even if Hongzhuang went to the pocket world, there were still many outstanding cultivators there. Without him as her protector, there would be many wild bees and butterflies. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and pressed her face against Bewitching's chest. As the young master of Tiangang sect, don't tell me you don't have confidence in your charm. That depends on my wife's thoughts. Bewitching lowered his head and rested his chin on Bailey Hongzhuang's head. He had always been confident, but he cared too much about Hongzhuang. I've already found the best man in the world. With just a simple sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang had already expressed her feelings. A pair for life. The two hugged each other quietly. At this time, all words seemed very pale. The other party already knew what they were thinking. The next day, when the first ray of light appeared on the horizon, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got up and prepared to go to the pocket world. They were all very curious about the pocket world created by the strong. Bewitching led everyone to the foot of Tiangang Sect's mountain. The pocket world is a special sealed world. It will only open when the assessment competition starts and ends. Chapter 1207. The two palace masters and the great elder walked beside Bewitching, and their hearts were filled with emotion. These cultivators were confident in participating in the assessment competition. Who knew how many of them would come back when the assessment competition was over 2 years later? Listening to Bewitching's words, everyone's eyes were filled with amazement. They didn't expect this teleportation array to be so magical that it could directly send them to the small world. This process was much more convenient than they had imagined. This is the first time I've heard of a teleportation array. It feels very powerful. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with excitement. Although she knew that there were endless risks in the small world, it was also a good experience to be able to see this teleportation array that ordinary people couldn't see at all. Although Dongfang Yu and the others didn't speak, their expressions were also filled with curiosity. The means of the big sects were really endless and dazzling. Now all of this strengthened their determination to participate in the assessment competition. Only in this way would they have the opportunity to become a member of the sect. You haven't seen the world. Wu Yuexin glanced coldly at Xia Jiqing. With Xia Jiqing's identity, she was not qualified to represent Tiangang sect to participate in the assessment competition. For this assessment competition, she had made sufficient preparations. She just wanted to get a good ranking in the assessment. If it weren't for the sudden appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the first place would definitely be hers. Now that she thought that such a group of bumpkins had stolen her limelight, she was dissatisfied. Listening to Wu Yuexin's words, Xia Jiqing glared at Wu Yuexin with dissatisfaction. You haven't seen the world, so what? She didn't know Wu Yuexin before, but now that she saw Wu Yuexin standing beside Han Xiling, she already knew that Wu Yuexin was their opponent. Naturally, she wouldn't be polite with her words. Wu Yuexin was stunned and looked at Xia Jiqing angrily. I'm still better than you. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She didn't expect Han Xiling and Wu Yuexin to be together. The two were really like-minded, and their words were very disgusting. I don't think so. Xia Jiqing shrugged her shoulders indifferently. Her expression was indifferent and innocent, as if she didn't put Wu Yuexin in her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to help, but seeing that Xia Jiqing's eloquence was getting better and better, she could solve it herself. Han Xiling patted Wu Yuexin's shoulder, indicating that Wu Yuexin should be patient for now. They were about to enter the small world. If they wanted to make a move, they would have to wait until they entered the small world. If the conflict was exposed in front of others now, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others died, everyone would suspect that they had something to do with it. Noticing the vigilance in Han Xiling's eyes, Wu Yuexin took a deep breath and could only temporarily suppress this dissatisfaction. They were all excellent cultivators selected from the affiliated forces of Tiangang sect and had always been very arrogant. She naturally felt inferior to Han Xiling. Whether it was identity, status, or strength, there was a huge gap between them. However, for people like Bailey Hongzhuang who came from the backwater, she looked down on her from the bottom of her heart. In her opinion, only Han Xiling's identity was worthy of the young sect master. Chapter 1208. Under the leadership of Di Beichen, everyone finally arrived at the location of the transmission array. In the center of the white jade platform, there was a huge circular totem. Just looking at the complex lines made one feel that it was mysterious and shocking, as if there was an incomprehensible mystery in it, attracting everyone's attention. This is the transmission array. Gong Shaoqing's cold and handsome face revealed a bit of emotion. Apart from powerful sects and powerful forces, he was afraid that no transmission array would exist. Not only Gong Shaoqing and the others, but the other cultivators also felt a burst of amazement when they saw the transmission array. Although they had heard of the transmission array, it was the first time they had seen it with their own eyes. Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan walked to the side of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, their eyes showing a bit of worry and reluctance. You are about to leave for the small world. This separation will be 2 years, you must come back safely. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes flashed with a bit of moisture, and her voice was a bit low. After this separation, she didn't know when they would meet again. What's more, the small world was full of risks. If someone had an accident, then she may never see them again. Yunfeng, you can rest assured that we will come back safely. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a confident smile. After we come back, we will go to the Azure Water School to see you. Hearing this, Zhang Yunfeng nodded, good, I will wait for you at the Azure Water School. Cui Haoyan also looked at Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing, brother, you must come back and drink with me. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing's faces both showed a smile. At that time, we will drink until we are drunk. Cui Haoyan nodded heavily. This time, he couldn't participate in the assessment with Dongfang Yu and the others, it was his regret. He only hoped that they would have a chance to meet again in the future. Although I can't participate in the assessment, I will work hard to cultivate. You must be careful not to be caught up by me. On the other side, Han Shiling also stood beside Han Hongyi. Grandfather, I will leave soon. Han Hongyi nodded slightly. Grandfather believes that with your ability, you will be able to come back safely. At that time, everything you want will be yours. Han Shiling's eyes lit up, and his smile grew even brighter. I will definitely seize this opportunity. Han Shiling emphasized when she talked about seizing the opportunity. She would definitely seize the opportunity to get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in front of Di Beichen and gazed at his peerlessly handsome face. Her clear eyes were filled with deep affection. Beichen, I'm leaving. Di Beichen nodded slightly and said in a low and suppressed voice, take care. I will. You have to take care of yourself too. The two of them looked at each other, and their eyes were filled with deep love. Their love was stronger than gold. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen reluctantly say goodbye, their eyes couldn't help but change a bit. They had long known that Di Beichen liked Bailey Hongzhuang very much. Now, looking at this situation, they understood how deep the feelings between the two of them were. Han Shiling clenched her fists, and the fierceness in her eyes intensified. The love between the two of them was like a thorn in her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang had snatched away the feelings that belonged to her. Han Hongyi patted Han Shiling's shoulder. Shiling, these things will soon cease to exist. Han Shiling nodded, but in her mind, she was thinking about Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang fell into her hands, she would never let Bailey Hongzhuang die so easily. Chapter 1209. Very quickly, everyone gathered together again. Di Beichen stood in front of everyone. The small world is a world of its own. Cultivators from every place will be transported to different places in the small world. However, every team will be together. As you walk from the periphery to the inside, you will gradually meet other cultivators. The final result will be revealed at the center of the small world. As soon as he finished speaking, Di Beichen glanced at the two palace masters. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing immediately understood and walked in front of everyone, handing a black token to each of them. This is your identity card. After you enter the small world, drip your blood on the card, and your information will be displayed on it. In the next 2 years, the points you obtain from killing the demonic beasts will be recorded on your identity token. Therefore, you must keep this identity token well. Di Beichen's deep and magnetic voice clearly traveled into everyone's ears. I hope that when I go to the small world to welcome you 2 years later, all of you will be able to return safely. Hearing Di Beichen's words, joy flashed across the cultivator's eyes. The fact that the young sect master had said such words to them was enough to make them happy. Now, everyone can set off. Following Di Beichen's words, everyone walked to the center of the teleportation array. The two palace masters and great elder placed their spirit stones on both sides of the teleportation array. Only then could the teleportation array be activated. Immediately after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest felt a mysterious energy enveloping their bodies. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was still fixed on Di Beichen, who was outside the teleportation array. After this separation, they would meet again in 2 years. Di Beichen's figure suddenly disappeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone could only feel that mysterious energy tearing their bodies apart, faintly making them feel uncomfortable. When everyone opened their eyes again, the scene in front of them was completely different. Everyone looked at the situation around them. They were already in a forest. There were dense trees in front of them, and sunlight poured on their bodies through the gaps between the leaves. As far as the eye could see, it was a vast expanse of green that stretched as far as the eye could see. In just a short period of time, everyone felt a burst of heat. The weather in this small world was different from the cool weather in Tiangang sect. It was very hot here. This is the small world. It doesn't look any different from the outside world. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with surprise. She had always been curious about what the world created by the strong would look like. From the looks of it now, that expert was indeed an extraordinary figure. This was a completely different world. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and looked around. Not only that, the elemental energy here is exceptionally dense, twice that of the outside world. The eyes of Dongfang Yu and the others lit up. A place rich in origin energy was a paradise for cultivators. This meant that cultivating here for 1 year was equivalent to cultivating outside for 2 years. As a result, the gap between them was obvious. It seems that this small world is also a good place. Bai Junyu's sunny and handsome face burst into a happy smile. As long as they could leave the small world safely, their progress would definitely not be small. Chapter 12:10. At this time, you are still in the mood to be happy. I think you really have a pig brain. Han Shiling's eyes were filled with a cold light. She had been tolerating Bailey Hongzhuang for a long time. She even dared to be so close to Brother D in front of her. Now that they were in the small world, no one outside would know what happened here. She didn't want to see Bailey Hongzhuang continue to live. She could no longer tolerate it. With Han Shiling's voice falling, everyone's expression changed a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing and the others immediately stood together. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood side by side, they saw the other 7 cultivators standing together behind Han Shiling. Seeing this, the faces of Xia Jiqing and the others turned ugly. Although they had long thought that Han Shiling would find a way to deal with Hongzhuang, they did not expect that the other 7 cultivators would all be bought by Han Shiling. As a result, the gap in strength between them was not small. Han Shiling, you are too despicable. Xia Jiqing said angrily. The pride on Han Shiling's face became more and more intense. She did not care about Xia Jiqing's accusation. In this world, the winner takes all. As long as you are dead, everything will be decided by me. Wu Yuexin and the others also showed a smile on their faces. They did not have any good feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. These cultivators from the countryside did not have the qualifications to represent Tiangang's sect in the assessment competition with them. Gong Shaoqing and the others' faces were a bit dignified. Originally, they still had a chance to fight. Now, the other party was stronger than them in number and strength. It was very difficult for them to get through this level. Looking at Han Shiling's proud face, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips evoked a mocking arc. She usually pretends to be aloof, but now that she's in a small world, her true nature has been completely exposed. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Han Shiling sarcastically. This woman's ability to disguise was really not that good. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was still unperturbed, Han Shiling's resentment deepened. She had always hated such an indifferent Bailey Hongzhuang. All of her aloofness and arrogance was just an act, but Bailey Hongzhuang's coldness was emitted from her bones. Comparing the two of them, she felt an indescribable jealousy in her heart. So what? Do you think there are still people protecting you now? Han Shiling's expression was ferocious. At this point, she no longer needed to maintain her image. She only wanted to make Bailey Hongzhuang suffer a fate worse than death. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Do you think a person like you is worthy of my protection? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, her posture revealing a trace of charm and laziness. However, her indifferent look clearly showed that she did not take Han Shiling seriously. Hearing this, Han Shiling's expression became even more ferocious. Bailey Hongzhuang, you really are a disgusting woman. She could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could still be so proud at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened, the ridicule in her eyes deepened. I just like to see you hate me but can't do anything about it. Chapter 12:11. Wu Yuexin and the rest stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Logically speaking, Han Shiling's identity, status, and power were all higher than Bailey Hongzhuang's. Han Shiling should be the one suppressing Bailey Hongzhuang. However, the furious Han Xiling before them and the graceful Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have switched identities. Even when they saw the two of them, they could not help but feel that Bailey Hongzhuang was superior. Han Xiling paled in comparison to her. Previously, when Big Brother D was around, I couldn't do anything to you. However, now that Big Brother D is no longer around, I'll send you to hell very soon. Han Xiling's face was filled with hatred. He waved his right hand and Wu Yuexin and the rest immediately understood. They immediately charged towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Han Xiling is about to die and he still thinks that he's so great. What a joke. Xiao Bai sneered. Han Xiling was no different from a fool in his eyes. I've been waiting for this day to come. This bitch, I'll make her cry and kneel in front of Master. Xiao He waved his hands. His eyes were filled with excitement. He had been waiting for this day for a very long time. I'm going to bite off her neck. A murderous glint flashed across Baisher's eyes. This woman's words were really unpleasant. He wanted to shut Han Xiling up completely. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered at the approaching crowd. Han Xiling, I didn't do anything to you previously on account of Bewitching. Since you're looking for trouble, I don't mind sending you to hell. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Han Xiling laughed exaggeratedly as if he had heard a good joke. Ha, did I hear wrongly? You? Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand and a silver needle shot towards Han Xiling. That's right. Me. Han Xiling was only focused on talking to Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly attack. By the time she reacted, a silver needle had already pierced her throat. She was so shocked that she stood rooted to the ground. However, after realizing that she was fine, Han Xiling relaxed. He reached out and pulled out the silver needle that Bailey Hongzhuang had pierced into her throat. What a joke! Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to deal with her with just a silver needle that had no power at all. It was simply ridiculous. The faces of Wu Yuexin and the others also showed a smile. They thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to make a big move, but they didn't expect that it was just a harmless silver needle. Even when Han Xiling pulled out the silver needle, there was not a single drop of blood on her skin. It was too funny. I thought Bailey Hongzhuang had some skills. With such a useless silver needle, do you think we're all made of paper? Wu Yuexin sneered. This was the most interesting move he had seen so far. We're not children. Do you think we're going to cry after being pierced by such a silver needle? I think she's scared by our formation. That's why she used such a despicable move. The cultivators behind Han Xiling spoke out. They were originally worried that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest would fight to the death. It would be troublesome to deal with them. Now that they saw Bailey Hongzhuang attacking, they were not worried at all. So what if they were pierced by many silver needles? Chapter 12:12. Listening to the mocking words of Wu Yuexin and the others, Xia Jiqing and the others couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although they didn't know what Hongzhuang was doing, according to their understanding of Hongzhuang wouldn't just make such a small move. Thinking about it, there must be a problem that they didn't find. The next moment, Han Xiling's smile disappeared. What should be said had been said, it was time to make a move. However, just as Han Xiling opened her mouth to speak, she suddenly found that she couldn't make any sound. Oh, Han Xiling kept talking, but it was as if she had become mute in the blink of an eye. She couldn't say anything at all. A touch of horror climbed onto Han Xiling's face. Han Xiling looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. She didn't understand what Bailey Hongzhuang had done to her. Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to Miss Han? Wu Yuexin quickly asked. The other cultivators also changed their expressions and restrained their smiles. Now they only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was very scary. They didn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang had turned Han Xiling into a mute. Chapter 12-13. Restore Miss Han's voice right now. Wu Yuexin ordered. Ha! Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and looked at Wu Yuexin coldly. Miss Wu, I see that you still don't understand the situation. Now, you're the ones who are begging me. What right do you have to order me? A look of disgust flashed through her dark eyes. She did not have any feelings for Wu Yuexin at first, but since Wu Yuexin chose to be her enemy, she would not be polite. With the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang falling, Wu Yuexin couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and for a moment, he was a little weak. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Wu Yuexin and the others. From the moment you chose to be my enemy, you'd better hope that you'll die in this small world. Otherwise, once you leave this small world and return to Tiangang sect, you'll end up in a worse state. Her words were cold and ruthless. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes did not have any warmth. In fact, she could only say that these people were stupid. Han Shiling only had Han Hongyi to support her. Other than that, Han Shiling was no match for her. Judging from the odds of winning, it was obvious that she was stronger than Han Shiling. Wu Yuexin and the others' eyes changed. They only thought that Han Shiling would definitely win, but they never thought about what would happen if Bailey Hongzhuang returned to Tiangang sect alive. They all saw Di Beichen's love for Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was alive, Tiangang sect's young master's wife would only be Bailey Hongzhuang. At the thought of this, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Once Di Beichen knew that they had attacked Bailey Hongzhuang, they would end up in a miserable state. Han Shiling looked at Wu Yuexin and the others whose expressions changed. She was also anxious. She immediately waved her hands and signaled Wu Yuexin and the others to attack. She absolutely could not allow Bailey Hongzhuang to shake everyone's determination. Looking at Han Shiling's actions, Wu Yuexin and the others suddenly understood, and a hint of ruthlessness appeared in their eyes. At this point, they had no other choice but to kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Han Shiling coldly. Since you want to die so much, I'll send you on your way. Wu Yuexin and the rest immediately took out their weapons and rushed towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others without hesitation. Only when Bailey Hongzhuang was dead could they end all the risks. A cold light flashed through Bailey Hongzhuang's deep phoenix eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang stretched out her hand, and the glass sword appeared in her hand. Gong Shaoqing and the others also took out their weapons. Since this battle was unavoidable, they would see who was more powerful. Kill them! Wu Yuexin shouted coldly. Han Shiling could not speak, so she could only replace him. Han Shiling picked up her sword and walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. The hatred in her eyes became more intense. She wanted to capture Bailey Hongzhuang alive and let Bailey Hongzhuang recover her voice. Then, she would torture Bailey Hongzhuang. This damned woman had been so arrogant in front of her for so long. She would definitely make Bailey Hongzhuang miserable. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flashed and the colored glass sword directly attacked Han Shiling. The grudge between them could only be settled with blood. The battle was on the verge of breaking out, and the two sides exchanged blows in almost an instant. However, just as everyone was exchanging blows, a mysterious light suddenly enveloped Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 12-14. Han Shiling and the rest stared wide-eyed at Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest who had suddenly disappeared. Their faces were filled with disbelief. What's going on? Wu Yuexin was confused. Where are Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest? I don't know. Why did they suddenly disappear? That's too weird. Everyone was confused. They had never heard of such a situation before. It was too strange. Han Shiling's face turned extremely pale the moment she saw Bailey Hongzhuang disappear. Bailey Hongzhuang had disappeared. What about her voice? Was she going to be a mute forever? When Han Shiling thought of that, she was about to break down. She could not accept such a thing. Han Shiling was furious. She immediately ordered Wu Yuexin and the rest to look for Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, Wu Yuexin and the rest could only stare at Han Shiling with their mouths agape. They did not understand what Han Shiling was talking about. Just as Han Shiling was about to go crazy, Wu Yuexin and the rest finally understood. They immediately spread out to look for Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. 5 living people could not have disappeared into thin air. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest opened their eyes again, they realized that they were in another place. Although it was still a forest in front of them, the scenery was obviously different from what they had seen before. They seemed to be in the outer part of the forest. The trees were not too dense. Looking out, they could even see a path. What happened just now? Bai Junyu looked at everything around him in surprise. The scene just now happened too suddenly. He still didn't know what was going on and he was already in another place. It was really too strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She did not understand what was going on either. However, the feeling of energy just now was the same as the energy they felt in the teleportation portal. Could it be that we've been teleported again? Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with doubt and confusion. Logically speaking, they had been teleported to the small world with Han Shiling and the others. How could the 5 of them suddenly be teleported again? Moreover, it seemed like someone had deliberately sent the 5 of them to another place. This was too strange. Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu looked at each other. They also didn't understand what was going on. In the next moment, everyone's eyes suddenly focused on Xia Jiqing. Usually, in this kind of situation, the first one who couldn't help but speak would be Xia Jiqing. Now all of them felt puzzled, but only Xia Jiqing hadn't spoken. Obviously, there was a problem. Feeling everyone's questioning eyes, Xia Jiqing could only raise her hand and surrender. Okay, I'll turn myself in. Xia Jiqing raised her hands helplessly. Hearing this, everyone just continued to look at Xia Jiqing, wanting to know what was going on. Jiqing, what's going on? Bai Junyu walked to Xia Jiqing's side and asked curiously. This is what Di Beichen told me to do. Xia Jiqing admitted frankly. In fact, this was not a secret. Di Beichen knew that once we arrived in the small world, Han Shiling would definitely make a move on us. With our current strength, we are not Han Shiling's opponents. So Di Beichen told me to crush this teleportation stone when the situation was bad. Chapter 12-15. So that's how it is, Di Beichen is worried about your safety. Gong Shaoqing stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, thinking that this transmission stone would not be a simple thing. Di Beichen could think of Bailey Hongzhuang to this extent, which was enough to prove his feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang. At least between Han Shiling and Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen was completely on the side of Bailey Hongzhuang. Dong Fangyu and Bai Junyu also showed a look of understanding. It turned out that Di Beichen said that he would think of a way. Master, what does this mean? Could it be that Di Beichen wants to stop you from killing Han Shiling? Xiao He frowned unhappily. With their strength, it was not difficult to deal with Han Shiling and others. As long as the 3 beasts attacked together, Han Shiling, Wu Yuexin, and others would not be their opponents at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a light of thought, and the corners of her lips slowly evoked a bright smile. Beichen said to use it when the situation is not good. He is worried that there will be a change in the middle, and we will be in danger. It's just that Jiqing thought that Han Shiling attacking us meant that the situation was not good, so she directly crushed the transmission stone. Bailey Hongzhuang only thought for a moment and had already figured out the reason. Jiqing did not know her true strength, only that her cultivation was weaker than Han Shiling. What's more, in the case of 8 people besieging them, anyone would think that they had no chance of winning. Hearing this, the 3 beasts also understood. The situation was indeed like this. Ha, now Han Shiling must be crazy, she has become mute. Xia Jiqing's face was full of excitement, I used to think that Han Shiling's words were very unpleasant. Now that she has become mute, it's really good. Yeah, the most depressed one now is Han Shiling. Bai Junyu also laughed. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, Hongzhuang, will Han Shiling's throat be cured automatically? She knew that Hongzhuang's medical skills had always been amazing, but Hongzhuang just casually made a move. Maybe she only temporarily made Han Shiling mute. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips slightly hooked. As long as I don't make a move, Han Shiling's throat will not get better. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, not only Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu, but Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing also couldn't help but laugh. Han Shiling really went for wool and came home shorn. In the following days in the small world, she would be very painful. In fact, as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others expected, Han Shiling collapsed after knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were missing. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Han Shiling screamed crazily. She couldn't accept that she had become mute. However, no matter how she tried to speak, she couldn't make any sound. This feeling was driving her crazy. Wu Yuexin and the others looked around but didn't find any trace of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not in this area, although they didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang and the others disappeared. Miss Han, we have looked around here, there is no trace of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 12-16. Listening to Wu Yuexin's answer, Han Shiling became even angrier. She simply didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would disappear into thin air. They must be hiding somewhere nearby. The most important thing was that if Bailey Hongzhuang really disappeared, then she would really become a mute. When she thought of living in the small world as a mute for 2 years, she was going crazy. The next moment, Han Shiling raised her long sword and wrote 3 big words on the ground, "Continue to search." Her delicate and cold face was filled with ruthlessness and determination. If she didn't find Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, she absolutely wouldn't let this go. Looking at Han Shiling's appearance, Wu Yuexin's eyes also showed helplessness. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others disappeared into thin air. It was impossible for them to be nearby. However, she also knew that the current Han Shiling was extremely paranoid. No matter what she said, it was useless. She could only continue to call for other cultivators to search nearby. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood in place and looked at the surrounding environment before they were ready to set off. They were now also in the periphery of the small world. In 2 years, they had to constantly get closer to the center of the small world. Since we have already arrived in the small world, let's confirm the identity card first. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the black identity card. Only by activating the identity card would they be able to get points for killing demonic beasts. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xia Jiqing and the others took out their identity cards and immediately picked up a sharp blade to cut their fingers and dripped blood on the identity card. After the blood dripped on the identity card, it quickly merged into it. The originally dark identity card quietly flashed with a touch of light, and then everyone found that their names and points appeared on the identity card. However, their points were currently 0. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes were filled with a touch of amazement. This identity card was already very magical. The means of this big force is really beyond our understanding. As long as we drip blood, this identity card will directly show our identity. It's really special. Dong Fangyu's starry eyes flickered with astonishment as a warm smile blossomed on his face. That's right. There are still many things in this world that we haven't seen before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. There was a big difference between the world 1,000 years later and the world 1,000 years ago. Things like identity cards didn't exist 1,000 years ago. Hongzhuang, although we are now separated from Han Shiling, as long as we get closer to the center of the small world, we will meet them again sooner or later. Xia Jiqing frowned. Han Shiling was really a problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile. the next time we see Han Shiling, we'll take their lives. This time, even if Han Shiling was lucky enough to escape, the next time she met Han Shiling, she would definitely not let Han Shiling leave alive. As for this period of time, she would let Han Shiling be a mute for a period of time. Thinking about it, this kind of feeling would make her collapse even more. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang once again looked at the road in front of them and said, "Let's set off quickly. There are many monster beasts in this small world. I heard that it would be very dangerous to stay in the forest at night. Fortunately, there are cities in this small world." Chapter 12-17. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded. Before they came to the small world, Bewitching had already told them about this. It was early in the morning, and they still had time to rush to the city. Otherwise, if they had to spend the night outside, it would not be a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the identity card in her hand, and her spiritual awareness spread in. Then, a map of the small world appeared in her mind. After determining the direction, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately began to rush to the city in front of them. The 5 people walked along the road. Baisher lay on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, and Bailey Hongzhuang had been holding the Luli sword in her hand. This place was at the edge of the forest. Although the possibility of monsters appearing was not great, it was not impossible. After all, in the 3 years before this, there were no cultivators in the small world, only monsters. This meant that in the past 3 years, the small world was completely a world of monsters. They ran rampant everywhere without any scruples. The 5 people moved very quickly, and while walking, they looked at the surrounding situation. They clenched their weapons in their hands, and their spiritual power was extremely concentrated. As long as a monster appeared, they would definitely kill it at the fastest speed. The vegetation in this small world is much more lush than the outside world. In the outside world, there are only such plants in the deep mountains and forests. Xia Jiqing sighed as she walked. So far, they had not found any teams, nor had they seen any monsters. It was as if there were only 5 of them in the whole world. Not only that, there are almost no roads in the forest, and it is very inconvenient to walk. Bai Junyu sighed. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Although this is a small world, the scope is very large. There are many cultivators who participate in the assessment every time, but compared to the small world, the number is not much. Even if the cultivators happen to walk this road, after 3 years, it would have been overgrown with weeds. This situation is normal. I'm afraid we'll have to stay in this forest for the next 2 years. Will we become primitive people? Xia Jiqing wiped the sweat from her forehead. It was much hotter here than outside. Even if we really become primitive people, we'll change together, Dongfang Yu teased. Fortunately, Di Beichen reminded us that the temperature in this small world is rather special. We also prepared enough clothes. Now, I only feel that water is the most important thing in this small world. If he didn't take a proper bath in such a place, he wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Everyone chatted as they talked, and time passed quickly. However, after walking for a while, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but frown. Isn't there a lot of monsters in this small world? Why haven't we seen a single demonic beast yet? That seems a little too strange. Not only Xia Jiqing, but Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, and the others also felt very strange. According to what Di Beichen had told them before, this small world was densely populated with demonic beasts. It wouldn't be long before they would be attacked by demonic beasts, so they had to be careful. However, the current situation was clearly different from what they had imagined. White Lion, did you forget to restrain your aura? Xiao He hurriedly asked. Chapter 12-18. Listening to Xiao He's words, Baisher was stunned for a moment, and then he guiltily restrained his aura. Previously, he had been following his master in the outside world and had not been in the mountains, so he was used to releasing his aura. At this moment, He had forgotten. Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baisher's small head. Speaking of which, Baisher's identity as a beast king could also give her a lot of help in this small world. This is because of Baisher. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile as she explained to Xia Jiqing and the others. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion, not understanding what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. Hongzhuang, what does this mean? I don't understand. Xia Jiqing was puzzled. Gong Shaoqing looked at Baisher, his eyes flashing with a thoughtful light. Hongzhuang, could it be that White Lion's level is very high, so many demon beasts are avoiding him? Baisher's small size made it difficult for people to believe that he was a great pharmacist, but according to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, they could not think of any other explanation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes. Xia Jiqing curiously looked at Baisher on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, her eyes flashing with a little bit of amazement. I didn't expect this little guy to have such a high level even though he doesn't seem to have any lethality. Xia Jiqing reached out and touched Baisher's small head. Baisher lazily lay on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, letting Xia Jiqing stroke his hair. He had been with his master for so long, whether he was an enemy or a friend could be said to be very clear. Baisher is a beast king, so where it appears, monsters generally won't appear. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, and her right hand touched Baisher's head, revealing the king character on his head. Speaking of which, White Lion had never shown its true appearance when it was with her. Now that it was in the small world, there was no need for it to continue hiding. However, with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xia Jiqing and the others were all stunned for a moment. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang incredulously, wondering if they had heard wrong. Hongzhuang, what did you say White Lion is? Xia Jiqing asked again, and the eyes of Gong Shaoqing and the others were also fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Beast King. Bailey Hongzhuang confirmed her answer. As soon as these words came out, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but open her mouth wide as she stared at Baisher. You said this little guy is a beast king? Although the answer had been confirmed, Xia Jiqing still couldn't believe it. After all, the White Lion's adorable appearance was poles apart from the image of a beast king in her mind. Hongzhuang, how did you form a contract with a beast king? Dongfang you couldn't help but ask. For monsters at the level of a beast king, it was impossible for ordinary cultivators to form a contract with it. Chapter 12-19. Hongzhuang, you're really amazing. Xia Jiqing exclaimed, even the Beast King, a monster beast that is impossible to contract, has been contracted by you. I always feel that anything special happening to you wouldn't be strange. In fact, ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had refreshed her understanding time and time again. Now that she had even contracted the Beast King, what else was impossible? Dongfang Yu and the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. She was indeed a different woman. From the first time they saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they had already felt this kind of extraordinariness. Seeing everyone mention this topic, Bailey Hongzhuang directly put Xiao He and Xiao Bai on top of her head. In that case, I would like to introduce these two little guys to everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Xiao He and Xiao Bai showed a strong excitement after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They had wanted to appear in front of everyone for a long time. Xia Jiqing and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. There was no one else here except for them. What did Bailey Hongzhuang mean by this? This was simply too incomprehensible. Hongzhuang, who are you talking about? Xia Jiqing asked aloud. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile, and her eyes turned to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately understood, and immediately, they gradually became the same size as Baisher in front of everyone's astonished eyes. Looking at the two hairy balls that suddenly appeared, Xia Jiqing and the others were all stunned for a moment, and their faces were full of surprise. Hongzhuang, what are these two little guys? Xia Jiqing's mouth was wide open as she looked at the black and white furballs in front of her. Isn't this too weird? They are also my contract beasts, Xiao He and Xiao Bai, Bailey Hongzhuang introduced. The eyes of Xia Jiqing and the others were still focused on Xiao He and Xiao Bai because these two little guys could change their sizes. Why can they change their size at will? Xia Jiqing stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang. She had never seen a monster beast that could change its size at will. It was really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. This should be their special ability. In fact, she didn't understand this either. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's ability to change their sizes at will was really heaven-defying. Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's hair. She had noticed the black and white hair clip on Hongzhuang's hair before. She had always thought that Hongzhuang liked this hair clip very much, or that this hair clip had a very important meaning to Hongzhuang. However, she had never thought that this hair clip would turn out to be two monster beasts. Thinking about it, this kind of thing was impossible for anyone to think of. These two little fellows have been hiding for too long, haven't they? Xia Jiqing sighed faintly. The things around Hongzhuang were also not simple. While Xia Jiqing and the others were sighing at the magic of Xiao He and Xiao Bai, Gong Xiaoqing's handsome eyebrows slightly raised. He said, Hongzhuang, do you mean that you have 3 monster beasts? This was the most strange thing. As everyone knew, each cultivator could only contract 1 monster beast. Not to mention that although there were many monster beasts, there were very few monster beasts that could be contracted by cultivators. Therefore, many cultivators didn't even have a single monster beast. Chapter 12:20. Listening to Gong Xiaoqing's words, the expressions of Xia Jiqing and the others changed. Previously, they were amazed by Xiao He and Xiao Bai's ability to change their sizes, but they forgot the most important thing. That's right. Hongzhuang, how did you manage to contract 3 demonic beasts? Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang incredulously. Although she knew that Hongzhuang had always been special, this was too special. I'm not very clear about this. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. She had no way to explain this point. She couldn't say that she was the owner of the Chaos Ring, so there was no limit to the number of contracted beasts, right? If she said this, it would be tantamount to exposing the secret of the Chaos Ring, which was not a wise behavior. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's innocent expression, the emotions in everyone's heart deepened. They did not doubt Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They thought that this could only be attributed to Bailey Hongzhuang's talent. When they thought of this, everyone felt even more helpless. Every time Hongzhuang did something, it was always amazing. Hongzhuang, you are really against the heavens. You even have such a magical ability. Xia Jiqing shook her head with emotion. Comparisons were odious, and now was the best embodiment. Gong Xiaoqing and the others didn't know what to say at the moment. Hongzhuang's talent, ability, and luck were too heaven-defying. A cultivator with excellent conditions, coupled with her hard work, if she didn't have any results, it was simply impossible. I don't know what to say. Hongzhuang, you are really amazing. Bai Junyu said with emotion. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that there was no difference between them, but now he only felt that there was a huge gap between them from beginning to end. As time passed, he was afraid that the gap would become bigger and bigger. Xiao He and Xiao Bai will follow us in the future. Their strength is also very strong. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The black and white double demons had been enduring for so long, now it was time to appear in front of everyone. For Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone was not surprised at all. The master was so abnormal, the strength of the beasts would naturally not be bad. After all, even the Beast King had recognized Bailey Hongzhuang as its master. When they thought of this, everyone only felt an indescribable difference in their hearts. Hongzhuang was really too abnormal. Everyone continued to move forward. And Xiao He and Xiao Bai's figure once again became a little bigger. And followed Bailey Hongzhuang. And Bailey Hongzhuang's body, they look like they were the two little brothers. Bailey Hongzhuang. After Baisher withdrew his aura, everyone walked for a while. Suddenly, a black figure rushed towards the group like lightning. Seeing the sudden appearance of the black figure, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly raised her glass sword and directly stabbed at the black figure. Although the black figure's speed was very fast, Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were even faster. With just a simple stab, the black figure fell under Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp sword. Only then did everyone clearly see that this black figure was actually a black fox mink. This black fox ferret's speed is very fast. Ordinary black fox ferrets are not that fast. Dongfang Yu's eyes were filled with a trace of astonishment. The black fox ferret's level was not high. With their strength, it was not a problem to deal with it. Chapter 12:21. Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely fast. With a swipe of her glass sword, she directly took out the demon crystal from the black fox ferret. With a casual toss, White Lion caught the demon crystal and began to chew on it. Indeed, the speed of this black fox ferret is much faster than the black fox ferrets in the outside world. Whether it is speed or power, it is much stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was warm and light, her phoenix eyes flashing with the light of wisdom. The yuan qi of the small world is far richer than the outside world. These monsters are in such abundant yuan qi all year round. It is not surprising that their strength is stronger than the monsters in the outside world. Xia Jiqing's face showed a look of realization, so, the monsters in this small world are more difficult to deal with. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. It seems that we can't judge the strength of the monsters in the same way as before. For a while, everyone's expression was dignified. In these 2 years in the small world, they needed to be careful everywhere. As everyone continued to move forward, monsters appeared from time to time, which also made everyone understand how many monsters there were in the small world. Fortunately, everyone was full of energy, and the monsters that appeared were not too strong, so they successfully defeated the monsters after fighting for a while. Among all of them, Baisher was the happiest. In this small world, the demon crystal was really everywhere. After seeing several monsters, everyone finally believed in Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment. All the monsters here were a bit stronger than the outside world, and it was more difficult to deal with them. As everyone beheaded the monsters, they also found that the points on their identity cards were also increasing. Different levels of monsters had different points, and the final result was judged according to their points. Just during the day, there are so many monsters. If it is at night, the number of monsters will be even more terrifying. Bai Junyu's eyes were filled with emotion. He finally understood Di Beichen's advice before. They must enter the city at night, otherwise they would not have time to rest for the whole night. Our luck is already good. We are currently in the periphery of the forest. If we are transmitted into the forest, the situation will be even worse, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. His eyes were filled with wisdom. Let's speed up and get to the city as soon as possible. They had just come to the small world. Even if they had already learned some news before, when they faced it personally, they would always find more problems. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the map. Our current position is not too far from the city. As long as there are no accidents, we will be able to reach the city before night. Everyone looked at each other and smiled. They continued to move forward, but their speed was slightly faster than before. While Bailey Hongzhuang and others were rushing, the cultivators scattered in various parts of the small world were also rushing to the city, hoping to reach it as fast as possible. At the same time, Tian Gangzong's Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng also bid farewell to Di Beichen. Di Beichen, we will take our leave. Cui Haoyan cupped his fists. Di Beichen looked at Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng. I will let He Mu escort you back. Hearing this, Cui Haoyan waved his hand. No need, the two of us can also gain experience on the road. There is no need to trouble yourself. Chapter 12:22. Seeing that Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's attitude was very resolute, Di Beichen no longer insisted. In that case, I'll let He Mu send you out of Tiangang sect. The area of Tiangang sect was relatively hidden. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had only been here once, and perhaps they didn't know enough. Hearing this, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng looked at each other and nodded. Okay, thank you. We're all friends, no need to thank me. Di Beichen smiled. With just a look, He Mu immediately walked in front of Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng. Mr. Cui, Miss Zhang, I'll send you out. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng nodded slightly and bowed to Di Beichen before following He Mu down the mountain. After leaving Tiangang sect this time, they didn't know if they would have a chance to come again in the future. Both of them sighed in their hearts. It was a big regret for them to miss this opportunity. However, for this regret, their mood was also very complicated. If they could come out of the small world, it would naturally be excellent. However, they also understood the extremely high mortality rate of the small world, and a little carelessness could cause them to lose their lives there. None of them could afford such a result. When they were in the assessment array, they had already experienced the feeling of death once, and that feeling was really terrifying. Speaking of which, they were not as confident as Bailey Hongzhuang, who believed that they would be able to come out of the small world. On the contrary, in the face of the endless excellent cultivators, they were somewhat inferior. When they thought that Xia Jiqing and the others had persisted for 3 incense sticks of time, and they only persisted for 1 or 2 incense sticks of time, this already proved a lot of problems. Perhaps this was the difference in choice. After Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng left, Di Beichen returned to his palace. However, when he returned to the palace, he found that Si Tuyen was already waiting for him. Master. Di Beichen respectfully bowed. For him, the most qualified person in the world was Si Tuyen. A kind smile appeared on Si Tuyen's face. Those 2 little guys have left? Di Beichen nodded slightly. He has already left. Those 2 little fellows are not suitable for the competition. Not participating is the right decision. Si Tuyen said slowly. His old and sharp eyes flickered with wisdom. With Cui Haoyan's strength, he should be able to participate in the assessment. Di Beichen sighed. Zhang Yunfeng's strength was slightly lacking, but Cui Haoyan's strength was not a problem. Who would have thought that Cui Haoyan would fail? This was a problem with his willpower. The cultivation talent of these 2 little fellows is not bad, but their willpower is not firm enough. If they go to the small world, it is very likely that they will lose their lives. This outcome is best for them. Si Tuyen's smile was deep and kind. Every cultivator had different choices. There was no right or wrong in this, as long as he didn't regret it. Di Beichen sighed and nodded. Indeed, everyone has different choices. Hearing this, Si Tuyen looked at Di Beichen. So, are you sure about your choice? Di Beichen was stunned and looked at Si Tuyen in surprise. However, he quickly responded, yes. Are you sure that you have no feelings for Xi Ling over the years? Si Tuyen asked. I have always regarded Xi Ling as a sister. There is no love between men and women. Chapter 12:23. So, are you sure you want Bailey Hongzhuang? Si Tuyen asked again. Di Beichen nodded heavily. I'm sure. The only woman I like in my life is Hongzhuang. Si Tuyen looked deeply at Di Beichen but did not say anything. Looking at Si Tuyen's expression, Di Beichen was a little anxious. Master had never shown any objection before. Could it be that Master did not agree in his heart? Just as Di Beichen was about to speak, Si Tuyen's voice sounded. Since you've already made your choice, stick to your choice and don't hurt her. Bewitching was stunned at first, then a happy smile appeared on his face. Master, don't worry. I'll stick to it. It's just that. Bewitching looked a little helpless. Master, I'm afraid it's not easy to deal with the Great Elder. Xiao Hongzhen and Jiang Yi had been dealt with, but the Great Elder had stayed in Tiangang's sect for a long time. Moreover, he had never had much conflict with the Great Elder. It was only because of the Han Shiling that there was a conflict between him and the Great Elder. Moreover, from the Great Elder's point of view, this was not difficult to understand. Never force your feelings for some other reasons. Other problems will be solved sooner or later, but once you miss it, it can't be made up. Si-Tu Yen turned around and left after leaving a sentence, but his back looked a little lonely. Looking at Si-Tu Yen who left, Bewitching's eyes were filled with a faint light. He only felt that his master was very emotional when he said this sentence. Thinking about it, there must be a story about his master. Otherwise, his master would not have said such a thing. Thinking of this, Bewitching suddenly remembered that he had occasionally seen his master's lonely look over the years. Speaking of which, he had never seen any woman appear by his master's side as long as he could remember. With his master's excellence, it was impossible for there not to be a woman who liked him, but his master had never been interested. Now that he thought about it, there should have been someone living in his master's heart. It was just that he didn't know about it. Thinking of this, Bewitching was even more curious. What had happened to his master in the past? What kind of woman could make his master so lonely? Bewitching pondered for a moment. He felt that he had to find an opportunity to find out more. All these years, his master had never mentioned this matter, but it was precisely because of this that he was even more convinced that his master had never let it go. If possible, he also hoped that he could do something for his master. The sky gradually darkened, and the small world slowly descended with the curtain of night. The originally dry and hot temperature also dropped. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were still on their way. Originally, with their speed, they should have been able to reach the city before nightfall. However, there were simply too many demonic beasts along the way. Most importantly, they had encountered a group of demonic beasts along the way. The battle had taken a long time, so they had not reached the city yet. I have now seen how terrifying the number of demonic beasts in the small world is. The reproduction rate of these demonic beasts is too scary. Xia Jiqing's face was full of depression. There were too many obstacles, one wave after another. It was simply overwhelming. Chapter 12-24. Come to think of it, the monster-beast war many years ago was also extremely terrifying. Bai Junyu faintly sighed. Just by looking at the number of monster beasts, he could tell. Once these monster beasts reached the outside world, it would definitely be a huge disaster. The monster beast's reproduction speed is far from what cultivators can compare to. This situation is not strange. Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent expression, her dark phoenix eyes filled with wisdom. Humans' intelligence was higher than monster beasts, but their reproduction speed could not be compared. It was precisely because of this that humans and cultivators had always maintained a state of balance. Our task in these 2 years can be described as difficult. I'm afraid that from here to the center of the small world, there will be many monster beasts. Bai Junyu sighed. Dongfang Yu chuckled, now, every monster beast killed means more points. At that time, it won't be monster beasts attacking us, but us looking for monster beasts. Their purpose of entering the small world was to kill monster beasts. Having monster beasts appear in front of them was definitely a good thing, not a bad thing. Gong Shaoqing nodded slightly. We can be considered to be earning points while eliminating hidden dangers in the Xingxian continent. Hearing this, everyone's faces were filled with smiles. In the following days, they would have to face monster beasts every day. Roar, roar, the sounds of monster beasts rose and fell one after another. In this silent night, it was unusually clear, making people shudder. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sped up. The monster beast's vision at night was more sensitive than theirs. With their current strength, they could not stay too long in the night. Otherwise, if they encountered a wave of monster beasts, it would be really troublesome. After walking for a while, Xia Jiqing's joyful voice sounded, "Look, the city is in front." With Xia Jiqing's voice falling, everyone looked forward. The outline of the city had already appeared. This city was larger than everyone had imagined, especially the city walls. They were higher than any city walls they had seen before. Seeing this scene, everyone's heart was filled with joy. Immediately, the speed of their feet increased a bit. Fortunately, although they could hear monster beasts along the way, there were no monster beasts attacking them. With everyone moving at full speed, they finally arrived at the city. The moment they entered the city, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. This wall is really high. It's the first time I've seen such a high wall. It's really shocking. Xia Jiqing said with emotion. Dongfang Yu's face rippled with a smile like a spring breeze. There are so many demonic beasts in this small world. If the city walls aren't high enough and sturdy enough, the danger will increase by a lot. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly and thought about it carefully. She also understood this point. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the city's environment. The buildings here were built very simply. They couldn't be said to be very luxurious, but there was a trace of magnificence in the simplicity, which was shocking. This city is so empty. Are there no other cultivators here other than us? Bai Junyu furrowed his brows in confusion. Although the cultivators from each dynasty were scattered all over the place, this city shouldn't have only one group of cultivators. Chapter 12:25. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi swaggered in front. There were no other cultivators in this huge city, and it felt very good. Maybe we just arrived early, and the other cultivators haven't arrived yet. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. The cultivators of each dynasty were randomly teleported, and maybe they were further away than them. After all, no matter which city it was, there would always be a team that arrived first. In fact, the location they were teleported to today was not far from the city, but they still couldn't arrive before dark. Thinking about it, the other cultivators' situation would not be much better than theirs. This is also possible. Xia Jiqing nodded, then let's just find a house to stay in. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and agreed. Suddenly, the five of them randomly found 5 connected houses to stay in. They would rest tonight, and they would continue tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the house. Everything in the house was very simple, and even the bed was a stone bed. However, it was also because of this arrangement that it could be maintained for so many years. Otherwise, these things would have been broken long ago. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the dry food. They had been on the road today and hadn't eaten since noon. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang take out the dry food, Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with excitement, and they immediately went to Bailey Hongzhuang. They were also hungry. In contrast, Bai Shi was lazily lying on the stone bed. Today, the eyes of the monsters that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others killed all went into his stomach, and he was very full. Even when he went to the Luoyun Mountains, he didn't eat so many monster crystals in a day. Now he only felt that the small world was a big blessing for him, and so many monster crystals could help him improve his cultivation again. After all, his master was already at the Orange Realm, and he was still at the Red Realm. This strength was not enough. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were very strong, and he was a beast king. If he was too weak, it would be too embarrassing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eager little eyes, and the smile in her eyes deepened. These 2 little guys were really foodies. Speaking of which, Di Beichen and He Mu knew these 3 foodies very well. Therefore, when she came to the small world this time, Bewitching prepared the most dry food for her. Otherwise, with these 3 foodies by her side, she was afraid that before the end of the 2 years, the dry food would be gone. She took out the food in front of Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately took the food and ate happily. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. After eating the food, she went into cultivation mode. The 2 years in the small world was a good opportunity to improve her strength. In order to save her parents after leaving the small world, she had to make full use of every second and could not relax. Moreover, she had not met any other cultivators yet, so it was the easiest time. The outstanding cultivators of the various forces and dynasties must be very strong. She had to improve her strength to be more confident. It wasn't easy to stay in the small world for 2 years. Strength was the foundation of survival. Chapter 12:26. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had begun to cultivate, the 3 beasts also began to cultivate after finishing their food. They already knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's background. When their master was increasing her power, they naturally could not fall behind. As their master's contracted beasts, their job was to help their master complete everything she wanted to do. They wanted to help their master get rid of those bad guys. The house quickly fell into silence. Other than the sound of light breathing, there was no other sound. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, the situation in the other 4 houses was the same. Obtaining a place to participate in the assessment competition was never the completion of a task. It was the starting point of everything. None of them had time to waste. Only by increasing their power could they successfully enter the sect. Furthermore, the existence of a genius like Bailey Hongzhuang gave them a lot of pressure. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang's power was not much different from theirs. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was now at the Orange Realm while they were still at the Red Realm. The gap between them wasn't small at all. If they continued to be lazy, the gap would continue to widen. This was not something they wanted to see. The next day, when the sky had just brightened, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest got up and gathered outside the house. Now, they had to rush back to the city before nightfall. As such, they did not have much time left. Hence, they had to set off earlier. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest walked out of the house, they noticed a few other teams in the city. As expected, they were only the first team to reach the city. Seeing that there were other cultivators, everyone relaxed a little. This at least proved that there were still quite a number of cultivators who came to the small world. What are your plans for today? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze swept across everyone. For the next 2 years, they would be staying in the small world. No matter what, they would need to discuss it together. Now, we have 2 choices. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes rippled with the light of thinking. His unchanging iceberg face was still cold, but compared to when he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, his temperature had undoubtedly increased a lot. First, we can continue to live in this city. We can hunt demonic beasts during the day and come back before dark. Secondly, we can head to the next city and try to reach it before nightfall. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Based on the current situation, they only had these 2 choices. Bailey Hongzhuang checked the map on the identity card, and her pretty face also flickered with a thoughtful expression. I don't care. Xia Jiqing said indifferently. In her opinion, there was not much difference between these 2 methods. No matter which one, she had no problem with it. Bai Junyu also did not have any objections. This kind of thing only needed everyone to decide on a direction together. In the next moment, everyone's gaze involuntarily fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was the youngest among them, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were enough for her to be the leader. Everyone was also used to listening to her opinions. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was now the strongest in their team. Feeling everyone's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "In my opinion, we should live in this city for the time being." Chapter 12:27. We might as well stay here first and go out to hunt monsters during the day. The number of monsters around here is also not small. After we have a better understanding of the monsters in this small world, it won't be too late for us to set off for the next city. After speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Gong Shaoqing and the others, wanting to know everyone's thoughts. Xia Jiqing was the first to nod. "I agree. If we go to the next city, we can set off a little earlier. After all, we don't know what problems might arise on the way." Bai Junyu followed, "I also agree." Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu looked at each other and nodded in agreement. "In that case, let's decide," Gong Shaoqing said. After making the decision, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other four walked out of the city. Hunting monsters was their most important task now. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others went out to hunt monsters, they found that many teams had the same idea as them. However, even though everyone had the same idea, there was no communication between the various teams. In fact, from the moment they entered the small world, they were already competitors. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked into the forest, they could hear the roars of monsters from time to time, as well as the monsters that attacked them from time to time. However, everyone's state today was obviously different from yesterday. Wherever there were monsters, they would appear there. With the increase in the number of monsters killed, the tacit understanding between everyone's fighting had improved a lot. Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Baishe were also not idle. When monsters appeared, they would also fight. After Xiao He, Xiao Bao and Baishe showed their strength, everyone knew that the strength of these three beasts was not simple. As a result, they had three strong teammates, which was no different from the team's combat effectiveness increasing a lot. With the three beasts attacking, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to find that the points obtained by the three beasts from killing monsters were all counted to her. After knowing this, Gong Shaoqing and the others also had a surprised look on their faces. The contract beasts' points should be counted towards the master. Dong Fangyu slowly said, "I just didn't expect that the points of these three contracted beasts would all be counted towards you. This is very mysterious." Contracted beasts were known throughout the entire Xingxian continent. Once a cultivator formed a contract with a contracted beast, they would be considered a single entity. Therefore, when calculating points, the points gained by the contracted beast would also be counted as the points gained by the master. This was a very normal thing. However, under normal circumstances, each cultivator could only have one contracted beast. Logically speaking, this identity card should only calculate the points of one contracted beast. He didn't expect that the identity card would calculate the points of all three beasts. In that case, the setting of the identity card also recognized how many contracted beasts a cultivator had. Yeah, Xia Jiqing's face was filled with amazement. "Hongzhuang, you are really amazing. With 3 helpers, your points will definitely be higher than many cultivators." Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, everyone nodded. The 3 beasts' combat effectiveness was not bad. As a result, it was equivalent to 4 people earning points together. The number of points Hongzhuang's points could be imagined. Chapter 12:28. After the 3 beasts heard the news, their eyes were filled with pride. As their master's contract beasts, they could help their master a lot. For a while, Bai Junyu and the others couldn't help but feel envious. Hongzhuang had 3 contract beasts. In this point, many cultivators simply couldn't compare. It would be great if I could have a contract beast too. Xia Jiqing sighed faintly. She looked at Hongzhuang having 3 contract beasts and her heart was really envious. If she could also have a cute contract beast by her side, how good would that be? It was just that it was too difficult to get a contract beast. In the entire Xingxian continent, there were very few cultivators who could get a contract beast, and they were all cultivators with good family backgrounds. It was impossible for ordinary people to get a contract beast. As for a cultivator like Hong Zhuang who had contracted 3 beasts, there was probably no one else who could do that other than her. The faces of Gong Shaoqing and the others also changed a bit. If they could, they also hoped that they could get a contract beast. It was just that they really didn't agree. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. There are so many monsters in this small world. Maybe you can find your own contract beast. No, even if we find a newborn monster, we can't seal it into a monster egg. Dong Fangyu shook his head slightly. It was very difficult to find a newborn monster, let alone seal it into a monster egg. Sealing a monster egg was not something that ordinary people could do. It was something that only some big forces could do. Looking at the helpless look on everyone's face, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, I will seal the monster egg. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, everyone was stunned for a moment. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise, their eyes filled with disbelief. Hongzhuang, what did you say? Xia Jiqing asked in astonishment. I said, I will seal the monster egg. Bailey Hongzhuang repeated what she had said. Sealing demonic beasts was indeed a rather complicated process, but she had learned it from the old fellows in her family. Speaking of which, those old guys in the family knew everything, so she had learned a lot from them. However, Xia Jiqing and the others still looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. This was too incredible. One must know that nowadays, there were fewer and fewer cultivators who had contracted monsters. Part of the reason was that there were fewer and fewer cultivators who had the ability to seal monsters. In their situation, they didn't dare to have their own contract beasts, but Hong Zhuang actually told them that she could contract them. How was this possible? Such a complicated and mysterious inheritance, Hong Zhuang actually knew it. Hong Zhuang, are you telling the truth? At this moment, Dong Fangyu couldn't help but ask again. Because this answer had really brought them too much shock with it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gracefully, why would I lie to you about this kind of thing? I really do. Hearing this, everyone didn't know what expression they had. Hongzhuang, don't you think you know too many things? Xia Jiqing sighed helplessly, in my opinion, I shouldn't ask you what you know, but what you don't know. They were all humans, but the gap between them was too big, right? Chapter 1229. Dong Fangyu and the others nodded in agreement. Hong Zhuang was indeed a heaven-defying existence. Medical skills, alchemy, inscription, and now there was a sealing technique. As long as one mastered any one of these things, it was already a very great existence. However, Hong Zhuang not only mastered all of these, but she also mastered them very well. It was really hard for them to imagine how Hong Zhuang could have the energy to take care of all of these. Even if Hong Zhuang's talent was extremely amazing, it should be impossible without enough effort. In this regard, they had no other way but to sigh. Jiqing, what you said is too exaggerated. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. However, as long as we can find a newly born monster beast in the small world and seal it, then you can also contract a monster beast. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's eyes couldn't help but flash with a glimmer of hope. This was something they had always hoped for, but they didn't expect it to be possible now. This undoubtedly made them surprised. If it's really possible, then it's really great. Xia Jiqing's eyes couldn't hide the excitement. She had wanted to have her own contract monster beast for a long time. The next second, Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang embarrassedly. If we can really find a monster beast cub, Hongzhuang, then we will have to trouble you. She knew that it was not good to trouble Hongzhuang, but she had been looking forward to it for too long, so she could only be thick-skinned. Looking at Xia Jiqing's embarrassed appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. No problem, this is what I should do. Now that they were a group, they should help each other. The improvement of each cultivator's strength meant the improvement of the team's strength. In 2 years, they had to face many powerful cultivators. After receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, a faint smile appeared on everyone's face. Although it was difficult to find a monster beast cub, there were so many monster beasts in the small world. Maybe they really had a chance to find one. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 4 killed demonic beasts all the way to the center of the pocket world. During this process, everyone gained a better understanding of the situation in the small world. At the same time, everyone's strength gradually increased. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Xingyi City. The red clouds of the evening filled the sky, and the entire ground was shrouded in crimson. After a long journey, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally arrived at Xingyi City before nightfall. As soon as the group entered Xingyi City, they could hear the lively chatter in the city. As they approached the center of the mini-world, they saw more and more cultivator teams. However, they tried their best not to interact with other cultivators. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 entered the city, many gazes landed on them. However, in just a short moment, many gazes shifted away. However, there was one gaze that never left Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Liang Xinghui's gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. He had never seen such a beautiful woman. It was completely beyond his imagination. Chapter 12:30. In fact, it wasn't just Liang Xinghui. Many cultivators present had noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's outstanding appearance. Among cultivators, women were at a disadvantage. Among the cultivators who were able to participate in the assessment competition, women were already in the minority. A peerless beauty like Bailey Hongzhuang was 1 in a million. Brother Liang, have you taken a fancy to that lady? Beside Liang Xinghui, a man in a gray robe with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks came forward. His eyes were filled with lust. Liang Xinghui glanced indifferently at the man in gray robe. Zhu Cheng, what do you think? Hearing Liang Xinghui's reply, the smile in Zhu Cheng's eyes deepened. Since Liang Xinghui said so, it proved that his guess was correct. As long as brother Liang takes a fancy to her, isn't it just a matter of saying a word? Zhu Cheng smiled proudly. It's her fortune to be able to catch brother Liang's fancy. The smile on Liang Xinghui's lips deepened, and there was a hint of desire in his eyes as he looked at the white figure. No man would be willing to let such a woman slip through their fingers. At this moment, another woman walked in front of Liang Xinghui. Her face faintly revealed some displeasure and dissatisfaction. Brother Liang, the cultivators who are able to participate in the assessment competition are all quite strong. I can see that the woman's temperament is extraordinary. It's best not to provoke her to avoid causing trouble. Liang Xinghui and Zhu Cheng couldn't help but glance at the woman. Zhu Cheng spoke first. Xiang Wen, what does this have to do with you? This team only has 5 cultivators. It's obvious that they're from an ordinary dynasty. With our strength, dealing with them won't be a problem at all. If you're even afraid of cultivators from an ordinary dynasty, then why are you participating in the assessment competition? You might as well go back and stay. Following Zhu Cheng's words, a trace of anger appeared on Xiang Wen's face. Zhu Cheng, what do you mean by that? Xiang Wen's gaze was fixed on Zhu Cheng. We participate in the assessment competition to be able to enter a sect and also to win glory for the country. Why do we have to provoke such unnecessary trouble? Isn't this a waste of time? Seeing Xiang Wen's unyielding manner, Zhu Cheng was also dissatisfied. How is this a waste of time? That girl is someone that brother Liang has taken a fancy to. As he spoke, Zhu Cheng sized up Xiang Wen with a look of ridicule in his eyes. Xiang Wen, I know you like both of them, but why don't you take a look at your beauty? Why would brother Liang like you? In my opinion, you should give up. Don't do such meaningless things. As soon as these words came out, Xiang Wen's voice became sluggish, and her fair face instantly became extremely ugly. She couldn't help but look at Liang Xinghui with a hint of indignation. Liang Xinghui glanced at Xiang Wen and Zhu Cheng and said, "Stop arguing." After Liang Xinghui spoke, Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen both stopped talking. "Xiang Wen, you don't have to care about this matter." Hearing this, Xiang Wen angrily looked at Zhu Cheng. She did like Liang Xinghui, but she also knew that Liang Xinghui didn't like her. However, Zhu Cheng directly said all this, making her completely lose face. Zhu Cheng glanced at Xiang Wen complacently, then moved closer to Liang Xinghui's side. "Brother Liang, what do you think?" Liang Xinghui smiled indifferently. "Don't you already know?" Chapter 1231. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked towards the inner part of the city. After a day of rushing, they were a little tired and just wanted to find a house to rest. The weather in this small world is really hot. After a day of sweating, I have to go and freshen up. Xia Jiqing couldn't stand the dirty clothes anymore. She just wanted to change into a fresh set of clothes to rest. Looking at Xia Jiqing's unbearable appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all had a smile on their faces. The weather in this small world is indeed like this. Perhaps it is because the sun is strong enough that the plants here can grow so well. Dongfang Yu's face was filled with a spring breeze smile. Compared to Xia Jiqing, his heart was naturally cool. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were looking for a place to stay, a group of people blocked their way. "Miss is so beautiful. How about being my woman?" Liang Xinghui looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. The closer he got, the more he found Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty. When he looked at her from a distance, it was already very shocking. Now that he was so close, he still couldn't see the slightest flaw on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. It could be seen that this woman was a natural beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were originally in a good mood, after seeing the sudden appearance of this tiger, their original smile suddenly disappeared and was replaced by unspeakable disgust. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man in front of her. The man was wearing a black brocade robe. Just from the material of the silk, it could be seen that this man's family was not ordinary. The man's appearance could only be regarded as ordinary, but the strong self-confidence in his eyebrows added a bit of color. Even so, after hearing the man's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's dark phoenix eyes also showed a look of disgust. As soon as he opened his mouth, it could be seen that this man was a playboy. A good dog doesn't block the way. Her red lips slightly opened, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked coldly at Liang Xinghui. Ever since they came to the small world, they had been fighting with demonic beasts for a month and had not had any conflicts with cultivators. However, this did not mean that they were afraid of causing trouble. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the expressions of Liang Xinghui and the others changed. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would say something so powerful. Xia Jiqing and the others couldn't help but chuckle. Nowadays, Hongzhuang's words were getting shorter and shorter. In fact, such an arrogant person who asked to be his woman the moment he opened his mouth, should be treated with such an attitude. Moreover, based on the way the man brought a group of cultivators over, it was obvious that they were not here to negotiate. They were here to kidnap the woman. When the surrounding cultivators saw the conflict between the two teams, they all looked at the scene with interest. In this small world, other than their respective teams, they did not have any friends they were familiar with. It was undoubtedly a very boring life. Therefore, once there was a good show to watch, they would never miss it. The leading woman in white is so beautiful, no wonder Liang Xinghui would stop her halfway. However, looking at the situation, that woman is not a good person. At this moment, it seems that there will be a good show to watch. Chapter 1232. Bailey Hongzhuang's team only had 5 cultivators while Liang Xinghui's team had 8 cultivators. Just this point alone was enough to determine the difference in strength between them. When the assessment competition was selecting cultivators, each empire would have a different number of people. The most ordinary empires would only have 5 spots, while the stronger empires would have 8 spots. If it was some powerful empires, they would have a total of 12 spots. As for the spots that some sects or powerful forces had, there was really no upper limit. Therefore, in this small world, everyone would usually judge the strength of their opponents based on the number of people. The more people there were, the more powerful the opponent was. After all, the larger the empire, the more outstanding cultivators there would be. Cultivators who had a spot were definitely powerful. At this moment, it could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's team was from a small empire while Liang Xinghui's team was from a medium empire. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang's team was definitely at a disadvantage. Liang Xinghui's team obviously did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to say such a thing and could not help but be stunned for a moment. Zhu Qing immediately stood up and said, "Miss, it's your fortune that the two of them have taken a liking to you. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, "I don't need such fortune." In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang ignored Liang Xinghui's team and immediately walked forward. Liang Xinghui's eyes flashed with displeasure when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang completely ignoring him. Until now, no one had dared to treat him with such an attitude. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang walked past him, Liang Xinghui immediately grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand and swatted Liang Xinghui's hand away. Instantly, her gaze towards Liang Xinghui was filled with fury and coldness. "What are you doing?" Dongfang Yu had already blocked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with anger. This guy actually dared to act so rudely towards Hongzhuang. Looking at the indignant Dongfang Yu, Liang Xinghui sized him up and chuckled, "So there's a Xiao Bai face acting as a flower protector." As soon as these words came out, the faces of Xia Jiqing and the others flashed with a strong anger. This guy who came out of nowhere had actually been looking for trouble with them. It was really hateful. "What are you? Your words are so unpleasant." Xia Jiqing looked at Liang Xinghui with disgust. This guy's appearance made people extremely unhappy. However, Liang Xinghui simply ignored Xia Jiqing and looked directly at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Do you want to be my woman? In your dreams." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Liang Xinghui with an indifferent expression, rejecting him without leaving any room for negotiation. Where did this guy come from? He looks like he's asking for a beating. Xiao He couldn't help but say. Xiao Bai looked at Liang Xinghui with dissatisfaction, looking a bit speechless. This guy doesn't even look in the mirror. How can he be worthy of master? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Liang Xinghui was not angry. He just sneered, "If you don't agree, then your friends will suffer." Chapter 1233. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at Liang Xinghui's reaction, and the anger in their eyes gradually deepened. This group of people wanted to bully them with their numbers. The onlooking cultivators were not surprised after seeing this scene. In fact, this ending was the result they had expected. The appearance of this woman in white is really 1 in a million. I didn't expect Liang Xinghui to take advantage of her. I saw that this woman in white had an extraordinary temperament and felt that she wasn't from an ordinary family. I didn't expect her to be from a small dynasty. If I had known earlier, I would have taken the lead. As soon as these words came out, everyone had the same feeling. As a man, there were few who wouldn't be tempted in the face of such a woman. It's not too late now. As long as you can beat Liang Xinghui, then this woman is yours. The ridicule of the surrounding cultivators also passed into the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, which made Dongfang Yu and the others even angrier. It was as if these people were treating them as powerless cultivators, as if they were mere objects. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips suddenly evoked an enchanting smile, and her eyes looked at Liang Xinghui faintly. Are you sure you want to do it? Liang Xinghui, who was already fascinated by Bailey Hongzhuang, saw Bailey Hongzhuang smile and felt like thousands of flowers had bloomed, and his eyes lit up. As long as you are my woman, I won't dare not to do anything. I will also protect you. How about it? Liang Xinghui's face was filled with a proud smile. In his view, Bailey Hongzhuang's words were obviously showing weakness. This kind of ending was what he wanted the most. However, just after Liang Xinghui said this sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang directly greeted him with a fist. Bang! Kacha! Everyone only heard the sound of bones breaking, and then they saw Liang Xinghui covering his nose as blood overflowed from between his fingers. Under this severe pain, Liang Xinghui couldn't help but bend his body. His painful appearance made tears flow out uncontrollably. Zhu Cheng and the others were completely dumbfounded when they saw this sudden turn of events. No one expected Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly make a move, giving them no time to react. This was simply playing cards that were out of the ordinary. Do you want to die? Xiang Wen was the first to stand up. Although she was happy for Liang Xinghui to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang directly broke Liang Xinghui's nose. This was something she couldn't tolerate. Compared with the anger of Xiang Wen and the others, Xia Jiqing and the others had a smile on their faces. Hongzhuang's punch was really too satisfying. Zhu Qing stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and took out his weapon. His ferocious appearance was full of vigor. However, facing the attitude of Zhu Cheng and the others, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression remained calm. Cut the crap. If you want to make a move, then make a move. We don't have time to waste here with you. The cold words came out of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth without any warmth. There were many cultivators in Xingyi City. If they didn't show their strength now, there would be a lot of trouble later. Since Liang Xinghui and the others took the initiative to find trouble, she didn't mind cleaning them up. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, Xia Jiqing and the others also took out their weapons. So what if the other party had more people? They weren't scared of anything. Chapter 1234. Anyone who saw the situation in front of them would know that the five of them had no chance of winning. What Zhu Cheng and the others could not understand was that the five of them dared to provoke them. This was really a case of newborn calves not being afraid of tigers. Xiang Wen looked coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. From the moment she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she disliked her from the bottom of her heart. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to take the initiative to attack them, she would directly kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at the sudden change in the situation, the onlooking cultivators were also surprised. I didn't expect the woman in white to be so hot. Her attack was so fierce, completely unexpected. I'm afraid things can't be settled peacefully now. A battle is inevitable. I don't know how strong this team is. If they don't have enough strength to provoke Liang Xinghui, they are really digging their own graves. Everyone was speechless. Liang Xinghui had stayed in Xingyi City for a while, so they had a certain understanding of Liang Xinghui's strength. They were not weak, and the teams of ordinary small empires were definitely not their opponents. It was precisely because of this that everyone was not willing to be enemies with Liang Xinghui and the others. After all, there was no need to offend a strong enemy. Now it could only be said that the woman in white and the others were unlucky. Who asked Liang Xinghui to take a fancy to her? Liang Xinghui endured the severe pain and raised his head. The anger in his eyes was almost spewing out. He had never been treated like this in public until now. What's more, the bridge of his nose was broken. Kill them for me. Liang Xinghui shouted angrily, but mixed with blood, his words were a little slurred. This woman, capture her alive. Liang Xinghui looked coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman dared to treat him like this. He would definitely let this woman taste the pain. As Liang Xinghui's words came out, the primary energy in Zhu Cheng and the others burst out in an instant. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the strength of the other party. One of them was at the 8th level of the Red Realm, 2 of them were at the 6th level of the Red Realm, 3 of them were at the 4th level of the Red Realm, and 2 of them were at the 3rd level of the Red Realm. This kind of strength was indeed not bad among the cultivators. Liang Xinghui did not make a move. In his opinion, there was no need for him to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at everyone. Speaking of which, the disparity in strength between the two teams was indeed quite large. In their team, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu were both at the 5th level of the Red Realm, while Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu were at the 4th level of the Red Realm. Speaking of which, Gong Shaoqing and the others' progress was not slow. When they participated in the inter-school competition, Gong Shaoqing had just broken through to the Red Realm, and the others had not yet broken through. Now that more than half a year had passed, their progress was not small. Especially Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu, the progress of the two could be said to be the fastest. However, after the assessment, the cultivators they came into contact with were all genius cultivators from various places. As a result, the gap between them widened. When Zhu Cheng and the others released their auras, Xia Jiqing and the others also released their auras. After understanding the strength of Xia Jiqing and the others, Zhu Cheng and the others' faces showed a disdainful smile. Ha, 2 of you are at the 5th level of the Red Realm, and 2 of you are at the 4th level of the Red Realm. With such strength, you dare to fight us? I think you are really looking for death. Chapter 1235. Listening to Zhu Cheng's disdainful words, the faces of Gong Shaoqing and others were a little ugly. After a month of understanding, they found that their strength was not weak in a small dynasty, but in the face of a medium-sized dynasty, the gap was obvious. The reason why they were able to pass the assessment of Tiangang's sect was entirely because of their will to fight. In this situation, they were simply embarrassed to say that they were representing Tiangang's sect to participate in the assessment competition. It was precisely because of this that when all the cultivators mistakenly thought that they were from a small dynasty, they did not make a sound. In their view, with their current strength, they could only claim to be from a small dynasty, so as not to damage the image of Tiangang's sect. Of course, except for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned coldly, and her eyes were stained with a layer of sullen color. She said coldly, "If you have the ability, try it." Zhu Cheng and others smiled at each other, and did not take Bailey Hongzhuang's words to heart. They picked up their weapons and rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang and others. "Remember Brother Liang's words, that woman must be captured alive," Zhu Cheng said. Everyone nodded, and the weapons in their hands attacked without hesitation. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu suddenly rushed to the 2/3 stage Red Realm cultivators, while Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu met the 3/4 stage Red Realm cultivators. In the current situation, they wanted to end the battle quickly, and this was the best way. Zhu Cheng and others also knew the plan of Xia Jiqing and others, but they did not take it to heart. After all, there was still 1/8 stage Red Realm and 2/6 stage Red Realm cultivators who were not useless. In this battle, no matter from which point of view, they were winning. Because this was simply a battle that could not be compared at all. The battle broke out in an instant. Yuanli broke out, and the sound of weapons clashing quickly came out. Zhu Cheng, who was at the 6th stage Red Realm, and Xiang Wen, who was also at the 6th stage Red Realm, attacked Bailey Hongzhuang together. It was the most troublesome to capture her alive. Looking at Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen who intended to capture her alive, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a sneer. With a shift of his mind, origin force surged out of his body. His orange-level aura enveloped Zhu Cheng and the other man. Feeling the sudden pressure, Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen were both stunned. Under such pressure, their speed and fighting strength were suppressed. The sudden emergence of the Orange Realm pressure made all the cultivators present stunned for a moment. They turned their eyes and found that the pressure was actually released by Bailey Hongzhuang. For a moment, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be a cultivator in the Orange Realm? The gap was too big. The smile on Zhu Cheng's face instantly froze. He and Xiang Wen looked at each other, and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. How is this possible? Zhu Cheng cried out in astonishment. This was too inconceivable. It was just a small empire. How could there be an orange-level cultivator? This was too heaven-defying. How can you be an orange-level cultivator? Xiang Wen couldn't believe what she was seeing. It was too hard to believe. Liang Xinghui was also dumbfounded at this moment. He never thought that the woman he had his eyes on was an orange-level cultivator. Even with his cultivation level, he was no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. The odds of winning seemed to have changed at this moment. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's team was not as large as theirs, and the strength of the cultivators was not as strong as theirs, you're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.